Jared Hunter from Authentic Soundware here with another special episode of Behind the Demo, how I made a demo track for a sample library. This one is by popular request. I did this track called Hold a Star as a demo for the new Space Age Voices library, and a number of people asked me to do a little breakdown of this particular track. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to make this a demo for that library. There's lots of other videos about that. So let's just talk about how I made this track. So why don't we start by listening down? It's about a minute long. So here it comes. All right, so there you have it. Hold a Star. This was sort of intended to be like a Disney spectacular kind of theme park song. It's like a song, but there's no lyrics, but it's like a song that's got that full classic orchestration style. And just listening down to that, I already hear about 20 things I wish I could fix, but that's part of what we're going to talk about. Let's start by talking about the approach to composing a piece like this, and especially given the context that I knew it was not going to be performed live. It was just something I was going to do as a so-called virtual orchestration. If you're anything like me, normally you kind of do the composing and the orchestration and the mock-up and the MIDI production all as sort of one big step. That's kind of what I do, at least most of the time. That's especially true if you're doing contemporary film music where there's an emphasis on the production, capital P production, and creating cool orchestral textures and sound design that are sort of part of what's expected. But sometimes it's very useful to separate the composing phase from the virtual orchestration phase. And that's what I did with this piece. I think that I partly did it because it was more like a song. So what I did was I started with a piano sketch, just a one-track piano sketch, and then I orchestrated it, so old school. So why don't I just play you? I have the sketch here. I leave it in my sequence as I go, and I'll just play you what I wrote. You'll definitely hear flubs and missing details here and there, but you'll also hear that pretty much everything from the final version is expressed in this simple little demo. So why don't we take a listen to that? Okay, I guess I did something else in there. Yeah, so definitely some flubs and a lot of empty holes, but you can tell that that's what went down on the orchestra page, if so to speak. I do that just to organize my thoughts, to have a full, um, to understand the proportion of the piece. How long is it? Where are the climaxes and dips going to be? And also, I think it's useful or just fun to try and adopt the process that would have been used back in the day if you're trying to do a vintage inspired thing. So you can kind of imagine, in 50, 40, 50 maybe for something like this, 55, someone at Fox or Disney or whatever in the music department who's the songwriter doing the song and then turning it over to an orchestrator to take it from there. So that's kind of what I, had fun pretending I was doing. That's one way of doing it. Another thing about that process, or really just composing vintage inspired music in general, when you're going to be using virtual instruments, is that you have to accept that, there's limits to virtual instruments as much as everyone, development has come so far in that domain, but it's always going to be a bit of a compromise. But your composition does not have to compromise. It can be absolutely 100% musically, stylistically accurate to a vintage style if you study it and put the effort into it. So if you do that in the abstract and you're coming to the virtual orchestration with some musical material that itself is truly authentic sounding, that's going to go a long way to making the whole piece sound effective and, true to that era that you're going for. So like examples in this style would be all the closed voicings and the use of, major 6/9 chords, like, those sort of like little passing, or not even a passing chord, but like this is like an augmented seventh, putting in those little things that tell your mind, oh, I know when that era is. People don't do that now. So things like that, the triads, and then the orchestration itself. Also, the choices there. All those woodwind flourishes and things like that. The fact that there's like a jazz rhythm section under the orchestra playing along. That's like a clue to, what this piece is about when it's the time period it's supposed to evoke. So that's kind of a little spiel about the composition part. Let's talk about virtual orchestration, MIDI mockups, whatever you want to call it. Making music in your computer. What I would normally do, even if I didn't have that piano sketch, but even having had it, the next thing that I would normally do is pull up some kind of ensemble patch. It could be, there's a number of good full orchestra patches available from different developers. There's, or I might pull up just a string ensemble full patch, something I can play like the whole range of the keyboard with. And I start by getting something down that is the whole length of the piece. Again, so I know the proportions that we're dealing with in terms of the dynamics. Even if there's little holes here and there, it's like the whole is meaningful to me later. Oh, okay, so that's where the flutes are going to do their thing because I didn't put any, whatever. So I think in this case I used, what's this? I think I used the Spitfire Bernard Herrmann, Studio Orchestra. I saved my own versions of them because their key switches are always 3 octaves below. But and then I just leave. It's a good idea to just save it the way you like to have it, so you can pull it up every time without having to start over. So I'll do that, and you'll see I don't know if you use Pro Tools or not. I'm in Pro Tools here, but I had some stuff here that's now muted. These notes are muted up, but a couple of those things are still in here, and that's often the case with my little first pass sketch that I'll just leave, like, here at the end, there's this, whatever this is. Now, I might have doubled that with other libraries and things like that, but it's still in there. So that's a ramble about that. Why don't we? I'm sure what you really want me to do is go through each of these things. So let's do that. Where should we start here? First, let's turn off the piano. These first few tracks, that's the vocals. We won't go into that now. Now, this is like a quick aside. There's a little. I don't think I put it in the actual demo for this because it kind of was masking the vocals, but there's a theremin. Now, you're not going to need a theremin very often, but guys, if you ever need a theremin, you should get this one. It's amazing. I don't know. I mean, it's like a sine wave, but somehow it really sounds good. Okay, that's my first hidden gem. Then I made this little organ patch. That was kind of supposed to be, you know, space agey. Then I mentioned I had my orchestra ensemble thing. Yeah. Not much to that. It's just, I put these ensemble patches in when it's supposed to sound big, and then just as like a production layer, and then like leave them out during the detail sections that have more detail. What's this one? 2D chords. Yeah, so I mean, what do those sound like together? Oh yeah, let's talk about this intro. I'm gonna turn off the theremin. I think some of the key switches aren't chasing from where I'm playing back, but that intro. I mean, these kind of pieces, they often, I notice, have this kind of dark, menacing intro, and then it just goes into like Follow the Yellow Brick Road or something, you know. But they're not. There's a little dissonance, but it's just triads moving around, which makes it kind of like wholesome dissonant. It's not, you know, Schoenberg or Alban Berg or something like truly atonal. It's just a little dissonance, and it's got such strong logic to it because it's just like a semitone away. In a like a triad always sounds logical. You can just, and then you just like go into jazz chords, and you know, it seems to be what they did back then. So that's how I made that intro. So why don't we look at? Should we listen to the strings? Let's listen to all the strings. So let's stop there. V1 look. So this must be LA scoring strings. Is that right? Yeah. I mean, I use this library for music of this style because, to my knowledge, or at least to my what I actually own, it has the best portamento and glissando transitions for this style. So I do use that a lot, and they have their. I mean, I'm sure there's a new version. Whoops, what's that doing that? Oh, it's in multi. Is this a multi? I think this thing is so old that it doesn't load up anymore. These is like LA Scoring Strings version 1. They have their sort of multi-patch divisi thing, which sometimes I use, sometimes it doesn't quite work, but I use the patches anyways for, like, you know, here. So that's my violins. Then I had the viola legato. Then we go into shorts. What's over here? Yeah, I mean, in this style, we want the textures to be moving around a lot, to be changing, to be super dynamic. So we had that. First, we had the dark brass fanfare thing. Then we had the schmaltzy legato chords, and now we're going to go into like fun and silly pizzicato. You can just imagine she's singing to some like animated squirrel or something. So here I'm using BH, that means Bernard Herrmann library high strings. Yep. And I'm doubling it with my the bonus patch from Space Age Rhythm that I made, which sounds like this. So that's flutes, woodwinds and strings pizzicato in one blended section. So then where we go from there? Yeah, more, So I think there's like a winds thing that happens here. No, oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of over here. Let's listen to just the winds and the strings in this section because they're kind of working together and sort of hitting like what I think of as target notes. Let's listen to this. Let's listen to winds only. Yeah, when I'm doing all this, I don't know, would you call that like gestures? I think my old composition teacher might call that figuration. It's just, runs and stuff. It's not melodic content, right? You kind of just need to pick your destination notes for those figures. So like, okay, I want it to land on this E flat, and I want it to be a beat and a half. So how can I get to there? This is going to sound, look how sloppy this is. Oof. I mean, okay, that's kind of embarrassing. But on the other hand, I think there's something to that. Like, it's sloppy, and that's why it sounds a bit live. They definitely wouldn't all be nailing that. And we're working with virtual instruments. We got to work with what we got, right? So I think that's just actually a staccato patch. What is this? Open up. Oh yeah, this is the old. This is not their Berlin. It's the Orchestral Tools Symphonic Sphere library, and this is like the version 2. But even version 2 is several years old now. That stuff really had a great sound to me. The thing called Symphonic Sphere and their very first library, or Orchestral String Runs, I think it's called. And then I also had some other winds here. Some trills. What's this? OT as well. Yeah, this is from that sphere. This is their trills like engine. I recommend that. And then I had the Bernard Herrmann. That's like a flute and piccolo and octaves patch. I'm really into. I like ensemble patches wherever possible. They do sound more real to me because the players have balanced to themselves. But obviously, that's not going to work all the time. So yeah, I won't go play through all of that. Then I've got my brass here. Why don't we listen to the brass? The brass is divided into two like folders here. I've got my jazzy brass, and then my more orchestral brass. You know, those players on like a Disney recording session. Like, I don't even really know who those guys are. I mean, I think they're kind of akin to, I don't know what the modern day equivalent is. Everyone's such a specialist, but you know, those guys who could play, you know, like a cup mute or like a plunger solo, but they're also playing like a sort of film score fanfare style. They're really like studio cats, I guess, you know? Anyway, so let's listen to that. Yeah, I mean, isolated, I'm hearing that I think I put in, you don't notice it in the full. Oh, I think I have this. Why am I not seeing the thing here? What did I do? Oh, okay. I think I have like a muted horns patch layered in. Trombones. Wait, oh, I meant to go to the horns. Here are the horns. Horns, yeah, of course, Spitfire Symphonic Brass is really a go-to library for me for brass stuff. I do I have the mute? Oh well, I thought I heard a muted thing in there. Anyway, so that's what I'm using. I have the, whose tuba is this? Probably Oh yeah, Mike Patty and Cinesamples. This is a great patch for tuba. The shorts are especially fun to play, I think. And so then for the jazz, I'm calling it jazz. It's more like I group them not only by sort of the intent of the sample library, but also by like what they're playing. So so I think I have this Bernard Herrmann thing, trumpets and xylophone. So that's really standing out. Then I also have, that's kind of low. What's this? This is the Orchestral Tools Glory Days big band horns, it's called, or something like that. And it's quite pricey, but I do think it's sort of the best thing out there. That I don't have everything, but I have this. I almost always do this on the mics. That's my tip for this library. I turn everything off and use only the spot mic and add my own reverbs and stuff like that, because I feel like going for some of a sort of different intent than what they did when they sampled it, which is fine. But that's what I do. And then that was the shorts. They have so many articulations. I think I made my own sort of longs and shorts, or did they do that? I can't remember. Sustain RV, I don't know what that means, but just regular sustain, poly sustain patch. And then trombone, yeah. I'm sure that's also the Glory Days. Yeah, it is. They've got a lot of articulations. It's pretty good library. So that goes through. I don't know. Should we listen to that? I'll put everything. That sort of that ending is really kind of the same thing as the intro. It's let me pull up the piano. It's that's why we're hearing something weird. I still have the piano sketch in. Okay, I'll try to remember to mute that. It's just triads. Normally, when I do that, I do this cheesy ending all the time whenever I want people to really get like, this is the end of a vintage orchestral cartoon kind of thing. It's a semitone below. But this time I didn't do a semitone. I did a tritone away to. So we're in A flat. This piece is an A flat. But I wanted to end on the 9. So that's an A flat 6/9 in closed voicing. I mean, it's got a B flat on the top, an F, E flat, and a C with an A flat in the bass. So I played a D major triad in root position, but over the so that's a little music theory there for you. And let's go. So okay. The key to this style, one of the keys to this style, I think I mentioned earlier, is having a jazz rhythm section playing under the orchestra, because it's a song. Like the orchestra is all fluff and extra. Really, this is what it's about. So. Okay, so we've got guitar. That's like my own little thing that I made. This is bass. This is my released Space Age Rhythm upright bass with the U47. It's just flat. I didn't do anything. Just sustain the 47. And the drums are what? Also Space Age Rhythm. It looks like I did a little mix here. Nothing too much. Just snare down a bit, hi-hats up a bit. The rhythm section in a genre like this is really just the motor. You really just want that chick, 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 chick. There's no fills. It's just like a borderline, metronome. And then I did a little fakey here. I think I'm using like the brushes on the snare and sticks on the ride. So that's the rhythm section. And what else do we got? Percussion. I mean, this is really what makes it come alive, I think. Once you put that tubular bell at the top, it's like I don't know, we're in a dark mode, and that, what is that, a tam-tam? It's tam-tam is a fancy term for a gong. So we got a suspended, let's see, let me go back. What's this? Oh, I don't use this one that much, but I guess I did for this one. This is the old Spitfire percussion. Totally a great library. I mainly use Cinesample's timpani most of the time. Cineperc. And I bet that's what most of this is. Yeah. So ascendant cymbal, crash, or Piatti, triangles, Mark tree. They have a good Mark tree. I mean, I highly recommend this library. It sounds great. And they didn't, one of the things that I, feel kind of copacetic with as a sample library developer of my own minimal way, is that they left a little, like, there's the room mics they sound like a real room. They're not perfect, which I think is good. And then for harp, there's obviously you got to have harp for all this stuff. You got to have harp. Glisses. Yeah, I guess it's just mainly glisses. You know, lazy. I didn't write in. See how I kind of blend two different gliss patches to create the illusion that that was all one thing. That's Cineharp for sure, because they have that ad lib patch. So that's what you're hearing at the start there. Very spacey and moody. This is one of my, this is like my hidden gem recommendation to you guys for this video. This is Symphonic Orchestra East West Quantum Leap in the old player. I probably need to update this. Buried into the strings folder, there's a harp, and it has this Gliss 9 up and down. 9 meaning it's a dominant ninth chord, and it sounds like this. Beautiful. It's the only one I know that has, you know, you can do Gliss mode on other harp libraries to get that voicing, but like actual sampled glisses is the only one I know of that has ninth chords. I mean, that's really, that sound speaks to me. Look, I just put it in, I only used in one note. What was the musical context for that? I mean, it's just perfect. Okay, so that's the libraries. I mean, I didn't go into everything. This is getting really long as it is. But I'll just go into one other area, which was like the mixing and the reverbs and plugins and things like that, just in case, you know, if you're still with me. So obviously we were using Contact for pretty much every sampler except for Play here and there. Well, that's just the piano sketch. I keep leaving that in. I'm gonna turn that off. I have an EQ here. Yeah, I use this Waves. I use a lot of Waves plugins. This old Neve type thing. I like Neve emulations just because of the sort of preset. They're not presets, but they're sort of. It's not a completely variable parametric EQ. You have to choose the point that you're going to boost that. You know, to me, less choice is better. Renaissance comp. I for I do this a lot. Actually, you'll probably find that elsewhere. For a lot, like this is on the flutes. For virtual orchestration, I pull up Renaissance compressor because I can put a lot of them in a session. It doesn't take a lot of CPU, and I either put it on vocal in the factory thing, or I put it on one of these master. If you go to factory master, one of these four here, and I just like get it barely touching. Let's see, where is this? It's just barely, but it keeps on something like flutes, like real or piccolo. It's really bright and cuts, and that can just ruin a vibe. It's just like it's too harsh, it's too fake sounding. And then I have so that's on the individual, and then I have a bus. The whole Winds bus is getting another just thing, keeping them. To me, doing this style mix wise, your challenge is the high end. It's not the low end. It's not the mid end. It's not trying to make some cool, sound design like texture. It's trying to give it that quote warm, vintage tone. I mean, this isn't now. This one I didn't go like full. We're not really trying to convince people that this came out of the vault at Disney. It's at relatively high fidelity vibes, but anyways, so that's one thing. So you'll see that's RC. Where we see RC, I'm doing that on the brass. I have again electro soft. Just the ratio is really low, and it's just touching it. I use this Puig Tech. I use this a lot, this Pultec thing, and what I do with it, I mean, look, I'm taking these aren't in Pultec talk. These numbers aren't decibels; they're just sort of percentage. I think maybe they are decibels. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe those are. I don't know. Someone put it in the comments if you know the answer to that. So the way a Pultec works is you have a 10 select, so that means attenuation. So I'm attenuating at 10 kilohertz by 5 dB. So I'm taking off 5 dB at 10 kilohertz. That's what I'm doing with it. I think a lot of people, when they want to make something sound old, they go for like putting a filter on and taking off the low end. But to me, like the low end is actually usually pretty good. It's the high end that's not there, and it's not filtered off. It's just not very bright as a result of the microphones they used and the recording medium and all that stuff. I also use this Kramer tape a lot, like I'm not using it that much in this one. I'm not sure why. Well, probably because a lot of the stuff I've recorded myself. Like these are the drums that I made, and they're already, it's kind of baked in. I use this not so much for adding distortion and saturation. I use it as a form of EQ. I just put the tape, again, just taking off top end. I put it on 7.5 IPS instead of 15. So when a tape machine is running at a lower speed, it's dark. The result is a darker tone. So that's what I'm doing with it. It's not like slam. I mean, it might be adding a little bit of crunch, but when I'm doing this, another tip, if you want noise, I don't put the noise up on an actual channel. I'll put an empty track that has nothing on it, like no music, no instrument on it, and I'll turn the noise way up, and that'll be my noise track. It's useful to do it that way because then when you want to make stems, you can just put that noise on its own stem, or you can, I often, when I'm delivering stems to a mix, I don't want them to take it out. So, but I don't want it to get, like, I don't put it on the master bus because then you'd have, if they put the stems together, and you had 10 stems, you have 10 times the noise. So I'll just put it like only on the strings. So it's like, if they want to have strings, they got to have the noise. So that's another thing I do that you didn't really, ask about, but I'm just rambling here. This is my mastering. Now, this is not my true mastering chain. I took it off just for making this video because the latency was so crippling. I normally would have an ozone, and then I often, for this style, I use something called Newfangled Audio Elevate. It's very clean, and you can prioritize the EQ bands. I feel like that's for my final like volume maximizing, but it's not, it's not like a multi-band. Well, it is multi-band, but anyways, just check it out. It's pretty good. It's not very expensive. I have tape. It's not, normally I would have the Kramer tape on here again. I guess I went with this one. This is the soft tube. I love all this soft tube. I really think their stuff sounds really good. I especially like the stuff they did with NI a long time ago. Like they did a Manly emulation and an 1176 emulation that's really good. Then I have I don't know why I pulled up Ozone 9. I guess I didn't have 11 yet. Maybe I got that. So what do I have? Vintage EQ, another Pultec thing. Look at this. I'm really taking off. I'm taking off 7.5 dB at 5K. So this is like really making it dark. But then I'm boosting at 16K a little bit. So just basically taking out harshness here and then putting back air at the very top a little bit. Low cut at 45 cycles, so that's just rumble. for some reason, see, I mean, this is embarrassing. For some reason, I'm boosting at 300 1.6 and cutting at 300 2.5. And high, mid, not doing anything. If you've ever worked with a real, well, I guess the emulations do it too. Pultec, I don't know, you need the ME or MQ5 or whatever it's called. That's the mid band. That's what's nice about this Ozone version, is that you get the mid version, the mid-range version of the Pultec and the normal famous Pultec in one step, because they didn't like I have the EQP 1A3 in my studio, and that's got no mid-range. It's just got these ones at the top, the very low, the high, mid, and the high. Then dynamic EQ. I use this setting a lot. I'm sure this is somewhere. It's called smooth high end, and I'll dial it back, put it from the starting point. Vintage compressor. Barely touching it, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, ratio is 1.5. It's just a little bit, everything doing a little bit. And then I have this, I guess, T-Rex clipper. That's just like gain, really. It's not really changing the sound. And then I think this will be the last thing we'll talk about is my reverbs. Okay. This Cello Studios Bill Putnam Echo. So, I mean, that's the famous echo chamber. I've used this preset on hundreds and hundreds of tracks since whenever Altiverb came out. It's like I use it for everything. I always have, well, not always, but generally I have two reverbs up. I have this, a long one, and if I'm really doing like orchestral John Williams, I'm not using this, obviously. I'm using, like, I'll have a hall or something, and then I have a studio. Most of the time it's not this. I use the there's a cello IR for the live room, but for this one I was using Clinton because I was thinking about this song when I did it, and Clinton's closed now. I used to record there a fair amount, and you can't tell from this picture. It's much bigger than this looks. I was just like, yeah, that's the type of room that this, would have been done in. So that's what I went for. Fun fact, one of the pianos they had there, might be this one in this picture, I don't know, was the piano from the Columbia Studios on 30th Street. So like the one that, all the Miles Davis records were recorded on, Dave Brubeck, all those seminal things. When that studio closed, it went over to Clinton, and then Clinton closed, and I don't know what happened to the piano after that. But they sampled it for Cinesamples. That kind of blew, but it was there. Like, we used to use it on sessions. It's really a trip to be like, wow, okay, this is what Bill Evans was playing. So that's a very long chat about this track. If you have any questions that I didn't cover here, I'm sure I forgot something obvious. Just put it in the comments or send me an email. I'd be more than happy to do my best to answer it. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Bye.